now we got you both here, and I can just see that the competitiveness is just coming out of you. It's seeping out of your pores associated with this. Huh? So there's no mystery with regards to what's in front of you with the corn, the onions, potatoes, and the pumpkin.
Oh, yeah.
Because ultimately, there's so much discussion around hospitals being affected in the rural, closures. Secondary to that is, I thought I saw the statistic: 22% of all hospitals in the US are at less than 5% operating margin and greater.
Oh, for sure.
Okay. But there's a lot of great news with some hospital systems, that are in the positive and will remain in the positive, and they see the future as being, quite optimistic, which is great for them. But from our perspective now, it's all about how do we, serve that total population, if that catastrophe actually hits. So, final question around this, and we've got both of you here, and that we can just have 7 minutes of open discussion. We've talked about procurement potentially being a competitive strategic boardroom weapon, and with a competitive advantage lens, the editorial lens that we're trying to put on this is the change perspective. So you're not there now, but we want to be supply chain. So if supply chain is a competitive weapon, what is the win condition? Speed, resilience, access, cost discipline, growth enablement. So what do you think will enable you to be there, in the future?
Oh boy.
I like it. The last two that were mentioned there. So what was it? Cost discipline and growth enablement.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but we talked about this earlier too. To me, capital procurement, capital strategy, especially on the clinical side, can be a really nice conversation when you bundle it in with operating costs. Right. So if we need to reduce our costs for a service line, but that service line also wants reinvestment in capital, I think those conversations pair nicely. So yeah, so those are the two things that, of the list you said, that to me those tie in very well. Because you need to grow, you need to reinvest in good technology. Most physicians want that. But in part of that conversation could be, we can only grow this and improve it if we become a little bit more efficient or effective with our cost model. Let's get rid of unnecessary costs and reallocate that investment into capital.
I would say for me, the two that resonated was the first one, speed.
Yeah.
And the last one, which is the revenue enablement, right? So growth enablement. I think you definitely already have to do the cost. Like you should be able to do that. That's core. But I think when you're thinking future-wise, definitely speed and growth enablement are the things you need to be thinking about, because we're going to have to deliver faster, and data analysis, decision-making much more quickly, right? So to keep up with the changing times, and also get out of that whole just focus on costing. How do I help to deliver total value, which is a lot of growth enablement activity, right? So how do I do things in that lens, not just restraining costs, which sometimes can actually restrain revenue. So you got to be thinking in that way. So how do you become a growth enablement, an engine, a value creator at speed?
Yep. And when you think about it, right, I always love procurement. Well, still love procurement because I think it is one of the sexiest places to be, but it's not regarded as. But if you look at the conditions that we're in at the moment around who owns the data, typically someone would say IT owns the data. Today, the environment is supply chain owns the data and can take control of that at a minimal cost. And you don't need data governance, you don't need data management, etc., with all these new AI tools that are out there. So from a competitive situation of, let's say, placing you at the forefront of, let's say, the boardroom, literally, I'm not saying at the boardroom as such, but at least part of the SLT, I think is going to be an amazing opportunity.
I agree. I agree. I think it's great. I think that level of visibility we have now from a procure-to-pay perspective, you're right. You don't need IT. You don't need a data warehouse. All those things help if you want to connect data, but you know where the money's going, right? If you want to have an assessment of how we can be a little bit more resourceful, it's at our fingertips. We can access it. Yeah.
I agree, but I don't think everybody takes advantage of tools that enable that. So I do think that will set people apart, people who know how to leverage technology to deliver that, which delivers that speed I was talking about.
Yep.
So I do think that that's a differentiator in the future for sure.
Okay. And so then, teeing you up, because I was teeing you up, so what risks are then unavoidable when you lead with supply chain as an advantage?
What are the risks when you lead with supply?
Unavoidable when you lead with supply chain as an advantage.
There
Do you
are
see
no
any?
risks.
No?
We're perfect.
You are, Jeremy. You are.
I have one, and it's one I'm working with now. Like, you build a strong brand, you deliver all those things. You can be relied on too much where you can't deliver without partnership with the rest of the organization. You actually need them, because one thing about supply chain is that we're very good at the stuff we're talking about, and you need to get very good at that if you lead supply chain. But you're not an expert in all aspects of the business. That's what all those other people are. Your head of strategy should be an expert at strategy. Your head of IT should be the expert of IT, right? So you're there to support them and help provide that speed to value, understanding that, and help create that value proposition very quickly with them. But they add that extra element of delivering, this is what I need to deliver X, Y for my part of the business. They need to do that. So that partnership, where when supply chain leads it, it can sometimes start relying on supply chain needs to like drive all of it, and it's really still a partnership.
So I'll add one thing to that, because that's very similar to what I was going to say. Then bandwidth can also become an issue. If you know all the opportunities, but you don't have the bandwidth to tackle it all, then that becomes another risk. Right? How much can you tackle at one time? Which I was going to ask a follow-up to you. When you talk about speed,
He asked the question.
No. It's very open, guys. Luis, you are in the center now. You can direct questions to me. You can direct questions.
So when you talk about speed,
Yeah.
that's one that for sure is real. Have you been able to pull a lever on speed to value?
Yes, through better data prioritization, right? Better categorization, and then tools to make sure that stays that way, so you don't have to mess with all that. You're just dealing with output, and that, like, not doing all the analysis. You're dealing with
filter.
And focusing on driving the value instead of in the analysis part.
Yeah.
Done. Cut. Brilliant.